I'm Reverend David Cathcart, and I was born in Vancouver and grew up just outside of Vancouver in North Delta. I did my undergraduate studies at the University of Alberta in Edmonton. And then I came back to Vancouver. I had planned to fast track into a PhD program, but my cousin died in the midst of my final year, and it kind of derailed me. So I came back to Vancouver and kind of bounced around for a year, and I ended up at seminary. It just seemed like a good pause, like the snooze button on life, right? It was the next degree. I was not going to be ordained, but it felt like a really good place to be, and it was a really good place to be. And part of that work at seminary was being shipped to Saskatchewan for a year. I did 8 months at Prairie Point's pastoral charge. And then I did clinical pastoral education. That's a chaplaincy program at Victoria General Hospital in Winnipeg. Really enjoyed those experiences. And went back to Vancouver School of Theology to finish my degree work. And I was really prepared for the church to ship me to Nova Scotia or Newfoundland, and instead they sent me an hour from Fillmore to Alameda and Frobisher pastoral charge, as it was back in those days, Alameda, Frobisher. And I was there for 4 years, from 2003 to 2007. From there, I went to Knox United Church in Brandon, Manitoba. And from there, I came home to Vancouver. The Lower Mainland is definitely home for me. I served 2 years in an appointment at Oak Ridge United Church right in Vancouver. And then I received a call out here to Port Coquitlam on the unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nations. And I've been here for 7 years now. I went to seminary, and I was actually I was not going to be a minister. I was not going to be ordained. But I do believe that discernment is a community exercise. And the church, when you go to seminary, the church set up a committee. That's how we used to do it. I'm not entirely clear how they do it now. And in community, we discern together that ministry might be a fit for me. And it has been. It continues to challenge me, and it's a place where I do feel like I get to be most of who I need to be, and it challenges me to be most of what I can be, and I appreciate that. Every time I change pastoral charges, I ask the question, okay, so can I get out of congregational ministry now? Can I go do something else? And consistently the response is no, I'm still here. This is still what I'm doing. And so I've continued to do this. I do believe that one day it won't be congregational ministry anymore, but I don't know when that'll happen. Maybe it'll go when the institutional church finally falls apart and something new is born, but we'll see. So it might not be as clear a response as people might be looking for, but ultimately it fits, it's worked, and it's been a place where I've been able to live in integrity. I love that I've lived in all 4 Western provinces. I love the experiences of those different cultures and the challenges that's brought, and the people that I've met. I just love the people that I've met. But what I love most about being a minister is that every week it calls me to my integrity. When I get into the pulpit to preach, it's not about what I'm saying. What's important is who I'm becoming. And the real question is, am I living the gospel that I believe each week? As I pray for the congregation, as I pray through scripture, as I pray through the weekly news, am I asking the questions that are being called out from the source of my being? Every week I'm tested on that. And if anybody ever asked me what I thought they should do for a living, well, if you can find a job where you are pushed to be the best that you can be, and to live with the deepest integrity that you can live with, that's the job for you. That's your calling. Your calling is where you're living in your deepest integrity all the time, as much as possible. And of course we fail. sin is the human propensity to mess up. But your vocation is what really causes you to live out of your being. So I'm speaking from my experience, of course. I can't speak for all queer people. You know, I was blessed. I really feel like I won. If there was a competition, I had an excellent experience in Alameda Frobisher Pastoral Charge. One of the real blessings was that there were other queer people who were settled right around me at the same time. And so it was like just this natural family that sprung up when I was there. So there was there was a lesbian next door, and there was a lesbian 2 pastoral charges over, and there was a couple 3 pastoral charges over that way. And in the next presbytery, there was another couple, and up north. And we just sort of naturally created community for one another. So I had this beautiful cohort that really loved each other and supported each other. And we would spend that day off at Easter, that day off at Christmas, Thanksgiving, we were always intentional about building community with one another. So that was really fortunate. That was lucky. And as a group, as a pastoral charge, when the challenges happened, the pastoral charge always, I felt, made the right choices in supporting my ministry. So when that family didn't want the gay minister doing their service, the charge stepped up and did the right work to support me as the minister on the pastoral charge. The thing that would be different, this one I have thought about, and it's a perennial issue, because this just happened a few months ago. So I'm currently in a pastoral charge that isn't affirming. And I was with a woman who died. And this woman I had known since I was a child. She was a member of my home congregation. And while I was on the prairies, she moved to this congregation. And so I've known her for a long time, and she's known much about me. And we had this, her death was beautiful. They had a tent outside, COVID, so we couldn't be indoors. They had a tent outside, and everybody came to say goodbye. And I sang to her, and we prayed, and then she died. And as we were leaving, the daughter of the deceased woman was handing out roses to people as they were leaving. And when I got to her, she handed me 2 roses, and she said, "For you and your wife." So this was not the moment, right? This was not the moment to correct her. This was not the moment to say, actually, I'm not married, I'm gay, I'm single, and I like it that way. This was not that moment. That moment happens all the time. Right? I'm in Vancouver, right, in 2021, and that still happens, because the assumption, heteronormativity, the assumption that straight is normal, that married is normal. We don't know how to handle single. We don't know how to handle anything that isn't straight. And so that happens all the time. And it certainly happened regularly when I was in Alameda Frobisher. It happened when I was at Knox. Now, what changed it when I was at Knox in Brandon is that we became an affirming congregation. And once we were an affirming congregation, I wasn't carrying that alone anymore. It wasn't just about me coming out at the right time or the wrong time. The church came out. And with the church out, that meant that it was on the individuals coming to me to know who I was. So if they read the information on the website, if they ever saw it, so the newspaper regularly, it was Reverend David Cathcart, the openly gay minister of the affirming ministry, Knox United Church. Right, that was how I was introduced. So it was just right out there all the time. It was that public, intentional, explicit statement constantly being given to the community. And it makes all the difference in the world. So if there was anything that could have been more supportive in my time in Alameda Frobisher, It would have been having the community bear that burden of constantly outing me rather than me always being the one to out myself. I'm an introvert. I'm not big on crowds, so I don't do the big pride events anymore. So pride is about living with integrity into my relationships. And when I first moved back out here to Vancouver, I met a couple. They're older men in the gay community, and they're my mentors. They're my mentors. So in the gay community, I was 16 in 1988, in the middle of the AIDS epidemic. And so men who are 10, there are very few men who are 10 to 20 years older than me. They all died. And so to find a couple that was speaking to my soul was, really a real gift. And we became, we got to know each other, and we built community together. And it was very important for us to build community together. But 5 years ago, so not long into our relationship, one of them was diagnosed with advanced Alzheimer's. And of course, they don't have children to do decision making for them. So I was made legally a decision maker in their community, so that if anything happens to the partner who doesn't have Alzheimer's, there's still somebody to make decisions for the one who has Alzheimer's. So as part of that, I've been very intentional about investing my time in that relationship and visiting regularly with this friend who has Alzheimer's. Well, that's a hard journey. And it's getting harder, and it's going to get harder still. And so as you ask me about pride and living out pride, my pride is in maintaining that relationship, even though it hurts. And it means I have less time for other relationships. Pride is that living with integrity in relationship, even when the relationship doesn't pay out the way it used to. First of all, I'm thrilled that you're looking at becoming affirming. I know, the first question always is, well, either we already are affirming, so we don't need to do that, or why would we need to do that because those people aren't here? Well, yeah, there are LGBTQ people in your community, and you love them. You love us, and it's important to be louder than the other voices. It is so important that the church speak louder than the negative voices out there. And that's why the public, intentional, explicit. It's so important to make public, intentional, explicit statements, and to have ongoing ministry. So it's not like you just, okay, we did this, check that box, now we move on. It's about how do we continually expand our sense of affirming. The United Church has a lot of work to do on race. The United Church has a lot of work to do on Indigenous relationships. And for us to truly be affirming means we need to do that work as well.